drove a large truck. No one disputes that. And these trucks, I mean, you're moving pianos. They're not the nimblest things. We're not talking about a BMW. But it was the safest way to move freight of that size. These are large grand pianos. He trusted his equipment. And folks, he had absolutely no reason not to trust his equipment. Now he approached the intersection, and you saw a diagram of the intersection. When he approached that intersection, folks, this picture here shows what an elevated truck looks like from about 40 feet away. Ladies and gentlemen, he had 1.5 seconds to decide what he wanted to do. He had seen no red light. He was thinking in that 1.5 seconds. He was thinking, but what he was thinking was, this is a very busy intersection, and if I vigorously apply my brakes, my large truck is going to end up in the middle of that intersection. I'm going to put more people at risk. There are going to be more auto accidents. The plaintiff, on the other hand, who heard from at length, she had time to think. She was sitting out in the intersection. She watched a green light turn yellow. She watched a yellow light turn red. Boom! Accident time. Now this is the tale of two drivers, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to hear facts, but you're also going to hear a story. You're going to hear a factual story. You're going to hear a story about my client who was extra careful, and you're going to hear a story about a realtor who was on a cell phone. You're going to hear a story about a realtor who had stopped at McDonald's. You're going to hear a story about a realtor who had a mega client and wanted to close a $1.4 million deal. Folks, this ain't Manhattan. $1.4 million is big money here. It's big money most places. But at the end of the day, she had a red light and she simply ran. The light was going to change, but her client was going to leave too. She was multitasking. And she's not trying to cause an accident. She doesn't want to get hurt. She doesn't want anyone else to get hurt. But at the end of the day, her innocent mistake caused a vicious accident. She was viciously injured. My client was shaken up. It's unfortunate, but accidents have causes. And when we unravel our facts today over the next few hours, you're going to hear about the causes, and you need to weigh the evidence and let that factor into your calculus on how you decide the final verdict. You know, as we all know, anyone can cast blame. Anyone can play the blame game after an accident. But we need to, at the end of the day, sit down. You need to sit down as jurors and compute the full quantitative fault. You'll hear also from the truck company that they had a zero tolerance policy for accidents. No accidents at this company. It's just not allowed. They don't tolerate it. Folks, that means 100% safety. That means that my client, not only did he want to do a good job intrinsically, he was extrinsically motivated to do that job. He was forced to by his employers. They said, we know you're safe, but we're also going to put policies in place to make sure you're safe. An external check, if you will. But again, he had no control over a realtor. He had no control over who that realtor's clients were that day. And there are just too few drivers who have that same kind of zero tolerance for risk. Unfortunately, one of those drivers was on the roadway that day. So please, as you weigh the evidence, recall that it is a legal excuse is not an entitlement in this case. Now, the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, you've seen a bottom line number here. This is their bottom line. You see that? Their bottom line is 6 figures. They want $142,312. That's their bottom line. Their bottom line is dollars, and their bottom line is cents. And folks, what we're going to suggest to you from the evidence is that both people were not at fault. We had a diligent driver. We had a realtor who admits she needed to go through that red light. And look, it's tempting to say that accidents take two. It's tempting to say that when two objects collide into one another, you had one object, you had another object, they must have both been doing something wrong. But folks, that's not necessarily true. And after you hear all the evidence, and you weigh all the evidence, and you weigh that evidence thoroughly, you will find that my client is not expected to pay $142,312 or $42,312 or $312. You know why, ladies and gentlemen? Because the evidence will show that my client was not at fault.